Hello and welcome to BrigsSpeak. I'm your host, Brigadier Rakesh Bhatia. In today's episode, we will cover Chapter 5 of your prescribed book, which describes in detail what was happening at Army Headquarters once Phase 1 of Operation in Jammu and Kashmir got over. As you are aware, state of Jammu and Kashmir was invaded by tribals. On 26th of October 1947, Maharaja of Kashmir acceded to India. Let's recapitulate what has been covered in the previous episode, the story up to 13th of November 1947. As I had said, the first phase was to drive out enemy from Uri, thereby averting the threat to Srinagar. Phase 2 was a success story for 50 Para Brigade, where they advanced from Jammu to Kotli. They successfully relieved Naushera, Jhangar, and Kotli. However, they failed to relieve Mirpur and Bhimber as both of them were too close to the border of Pakistan. Rajauri also could not be relieved, and Gilgit, being so far, lo- was lost out. There was a partial success as column from Uri to Punch was attacked in between, but despite that, a battalion less a company managed to join the Punch garrison and the garrison managed to hold on. The status as of now was such that enemy from Gilgit was in a position to threaten Baltistan and Ladakh. From Muzaffarabad, the enemy was still capable of threatening Srinagar through Uri or flanking through Titwal. Pressure was continuously maintained on Punch through Rajouri or through Mendar. I'll request you to have a look at the accompanying map to understand the relative location of various places where the war had taken place. As on 13th November 1947, the spread of Indian Army was the headquarters of Jammu and Kashmir Division, commanded by Major General Kulwant Singh, was located at Jammu. In Srinagar garrison, 161 Infantry Brigade was guarding Uri Baramulla sector. In Jammu sector, 50 Para Brigade was looking after the Jhangar Naushera sector, whereas a newly inducted brigade, 268 Infantry Brigade, was located at Jammu, but its responsibility was to protect the two roads, that is, from Jammu to Srinagar and from Jammu to Kotli. Protection of these lines of communication was with 268 Infantry Brigade. It was appreciated at Army Headquarters that Pakistan was capable of mustering 15,000 armed men who were waiting to invade Jammu and Kashmir. They were capable of conducting raid and thereafter attack Mirpur, Punch, and west of Uri. It was also anticipated that they may wait till spring to attack in large number. Till that time, their likely objective was to make India disperse its forces, attack smaller garrisons and support columns, and look for an opportunity to occupy the same. The lines of communications were vulnerable to the attack from across the border. They were also working on inciting the communal passions against India, and there were regular raids from Sialkot into Jammu division. Our own problem was the upcoming weather, the tough terrain, and long lines of communication. It was a challenge to keep the road Jammu Srinagar, Srinagar Uri, and Jammu Naushera open in winters. These tracks were vulnerable to enemy actions as well as climatic conditions. There was a limited air support, which also depended on unsuitable weather and also non availability of aircrafts. It was appreciated that the total forces required to protect the state of Jammu and Kashmir would be four, where two brigade groups with four battalions each were required in Jammu, Naushera, Mirpur, Kotli sector, one brigade group in Srinagar, and one brigade group beyond Srinagar in general area Uri Punch. On 28 November 47, a decision was taken that three brigade groups would be made available to GOC, Jammu and Kashmir forces, out of which two would be located in Jammu region and one would be located in Srinagar Uri region. One light armored regiment, one mountain regiment artillery, one field regiment, and ancillary troops would be placed at the discretion of the force commander. Four Howards and one squadron consisting of eight Tempest aircrafts would also be available to the force headquarters. It was laid down for force commander to patrol areas west and south of Uri and west and north of Naushera. All the state troops, that is the Maharaja's forces, were placed under GOC, Jammu and Kashmir Force. National Conference also had gathered some militia. However, it was decided that they will remain within own territory. A decision was also taken to abandon Punch because the lines of communication to Punch were cut off. However, due to political reasons, it was decided to reinforce Punch later. On 3rd of December 1947, there was a decision dilemma amongst the higher leadership. That is, to advance towards Domil or to evacuate Punch or to save Punch. Like I said, decision was taken that Punch must be held. In addition, it was also decided that all movement 5 kilometers from Pakistan Kashmir border and 16 kilometers in depth would be liable to airstrike. There was also a provision made for another brigade group to be earmarked for Jammu region. The strategic options available for India were to destroy enemy at Uri and push towards Domil, hold forward mobile patrols to maintain constant pressure on Pakistan army. A deception strategy was planned to bluff enemy into believing that India would advance beyond its resources. A full-scale operation was planned to be launched in spring after the communications were improved. Possible enemy responses were also appreciated, wherein it was felt that enemy would aim to disrupt Indian withdrawal and reinforce Pathankot, Jammu, Naushera communication lines. Jammu sector would be strengthened post Punch withdrawal, and enemy could operate in favorable areas north of Jammu. Few key considerations for operations to continue towards Domail were: this would take the battle into Pakistan, threatening Domail, Muzaffarabad, where number of avenues open into Pakistani Punjab, especially to Rawalpindi, their GHQ. It required withdrawal from Punch to reduce enemy concentration at Uri. If Indian troops withdrew, the enemy would recognize an impending offensive at Uri. Troops had been on defensive duties for months, affecting their combat effectiveness. Troops had limited training in high altitude combat. They were fresh from the World War, where most of them had resorted to jungle fighting in the jungles of Burma. Few units had recently arrived from Pakistan, handing over their equipment to the newly formed Pakistan Army. They were still undergoing reorganization, which reduced their combat capabilities. The route to Domel passed through narrow gorges, which was suitable for enemies' ambush tactics. A strong, possibly a brigade, would be needed to secure the route, but the resources available were insufficient. A prerequisite for advancing toward Domel was rescuing the isolated Indian detachment there. Only after securing Domel could further offensive actions be planned effectively. The key tasks the Indian Army had laid for themselves were secure Jammu and Kashmir state, relieve Punch, drive out raiders, build a force to relieve Punch, advance to Bhimber, gain control of Jhelum Valley to pressurize Punch. It also entailed carrying out few engineer tasks, which was to improve the communication routes and ferry at Beripattan. Please go through our previous episode where we had said that how enemy had destroyed a bridge at Beripattan, which had disrupted movement of 50 para brigade. 14 field company was required to support forward brigades and 22 field company was tasked to improve the route from Akhnur. Beripattan ferry was capable of 70 vehicles per day. There was a desperate need to expand this capacity. Two existing rafts operated at night but had limitations of operating during daytime. Maximum of 4,000 troops were available for tasks. There was a requirement of reinforcement. GOC, Jammu and Kashmir Division, was responsible for this reinforcement. It was not only the number of troops, the supply chain was to be established and secured. Delhi East Punjab Command was made responsible for supplies to Jammu. Protection of Katwa remained under Jammu and Kashmir Division. To find out the reason why protection of Katwa was important, please go through our previous episode. Stockpiles of ammunition, petrol, oil, and lubricants was essential. Since the route to Punch was not available, the Indian Air Force carried out two daily sorties for dropping supplies in Punch. For this purpose, the advanced landing ground was made fit at Punch. Each sortie was able to deliver 2,720 kilograms of supplies. These supplies were flown in from Delhi and Jammu to sustain the effort. And then the final plan was arrived at. It was decided that the offensive would be carried out through three different thrusts, known as the Northern Thrust, which entailed hold Punch, no attempt to open the road Uri Hajipir Pass. Enemy was in strength around Uri, anticipating Indian advance. This created an opportunity to surprise the enemy by keeping them misled. The central thrust was along Naushera Kotli Punch. Enemy resistance was expected at Jhangar, making contact with Punch difficult. Alternative deception towards Palandri was considered. A strong force north of Kotli was required to relieve Punch. A total of 6 to 7 battalions were required to keep the communications open. Yet another thrust, known as the Southern Thrust, was planned along Akhnur, Manawar, Bhimber. Enemy's presence was expected southwest of Akhnur Bhimber. The road was very close to Pakistan border, posing a serious constraint. A mule track from Naushera to Bhimber was available, which had potential for a surprise attack. Securing Bhimber would strengthen the advance towards Poonch. How far the Indian Army was able to carry out this offensive plan, we will see. With this, I come to the end of today's episode. You requested to please share, like, and comment, and also join our Telegram channel, the address of which I will give in the description. We've also opened for discussion on our Telegram channel, and very soon we will start posting the PPTs on that channel. Keep working hard. Thank you. Jai Hind.